In a seaside town in Japan, the sea breeze gently blows through the fur of an orange cat. In the sunlight, the cat's coat shines brightly. The cat contentedly licks its lips, gazing at the distant ebb and flow of the tides and the swirling flocks of birds. It walks past the uneven rooftops and steps into the liveliest area of the market. There, no humans chase away these little creatures, and a harmonious, symbiotic relationship forms between people and cats. The cat has become an intimate companion in the lives of the residents, and Grandpa Daikichi is no exception. The cat Tama, raised by Daikichi, is already 6 years old and still loves to nap on Daikichi's chest. Daikichi, holding Tama, struggles a bit to get up and begins a new day of life. Since the passing of his wife Yoshi, Daikichi has relied on Tama for companionship. That round, plump figure adds much comfort and joy to Daikichi's somewhat lonely daily life. For example, Tama clearly remembers the times for the 3 meals a day and always jumps onto the chair in advance, as if supervising Daikichi to eat on time. Additionally, Tama takes Daikichi for walks after meals, while also not forgetting to look for its favorite cat. In this small town, cats are everywhere, and it is quite common to see a person walking side by side with a cat. Retired Daikichi still enjoys crossing the path to the dock during the time when children go to school. The students cheerfully greet Daikichi, and in that moment, he seems to forget the sense of alienation that comes with age. The sun at the dock remains warm, and Daikichi's friend Ueo still shows his dislike for cats. But when Tama catches the scent of fish on Ueo, it raises its head and makes a cute expression towards him. Ueo is a person who appears strict on the outside, but is soft-hearted inside, completely unable to resist such a cute attack, and hurriedly quickens his pace to leave. The two walk together, strolling through the small town, and accidentally discover a shop at the corner that is being renovated. The elderly people feel curious, discussing whether a convenience store will open here. After all, it is quite inconvenient to shop in slightly farther places right now. However, since the island's residents are mainly elderly, the idea of opening a convenience store may not be realistic. Tomiko and Tome start arguing again. The two have been quarreling like this for most of their lives, seemingly not giving in to each other. Yet their friendship grows stronger through the disputes. Sachi, dressed in light purple clothes, steps forward to mediate, her tone particularly gentle, drawing Ueo's attention from time to time. Seeing the two, who were just arguing, walk away in their own directions, the others present can't help but smile knowingly. Daikichi suddenly notices that Tama has quietly slipped away at some point. Tama is a rather unique cat on this island, with a majestic posture, patrolling her territory like a little tiger. Tama holds her tail high, confidently greeting passers-by. Tama is unaware that Daikichi is looking for her, as she is preoccupied with pursuing her own love. Perhaps before meeting that calico cat, Tama did not understand what it meant to have a heart flutter, but just a distant glance this time made her instantly experience that feeling of love's impulse. Unfortunately, the other party seems to have no interest in this lively and reckless fellow, merely glancing at her before turning away. For the first time in her life, Tama felt the taste of heartbreak. A wounded heart urgently needs gentle comfort, and Tama snuggles into the arms of a passing lady, purring contentedly. This scene happens to be witnessed by Daikichi, who came to look for her. And this unfamiliar lady is the owner of the shop that is being renovated. The lady plans to open a cafe here. Daikichi is not optimistic about this Western-style beverage place, believing it to be too novel for the elderly population on the island. However, the postman Satoshi is full of expectations. Satoshi is one of the few young people still remaining in the small town. Satoshi really likes Tama, but unfortunately, the cats seem to be a bit distant from Satoshi, sometimes leaving him with only a cold back. As time passes, the young people in the small town are becoming increasingly scarce. The younger generation yearns for a broader outside world, planning to head to big cities for development. The gentle sea breeze ultimately cannot hold back the hearts of the younger generation from traveling afar. A couple sits by the sea, the boy gazing affectionately at the girl, but the girl's gaze is directed towards the distant horizon. Some choose to leave, while others choose to stay. Just like Daikichi's family, even though his son Tsuyoshi is working in Tokyo, Daikichi has never considered moving away. Perhaps it is because Tama is still here, or perhaps it is because all the memories Daikichi shared with his wife are settled here. Tsuyoshi often thinks of them and always calls to check in. Influenced by his parents, Tsuyoshi also loves cats. He has a fluffy calico cat in his apartment in Tokyo, round and cute. Tsuyoshi tirelessly reminds his father to carry his phone with him, so that he can contact him in case of an emergency. But Daikichi is not willing to do so. He feels as if he is being treated like an elderly person who needs special care and is incapable, having to use a simplified phone designed for seniors, relying on others for everything. In reality, Daikichi's health is still robust. He can prepare complex sashimi dishes for himself, take good care of Tama, and even replicate the dishes his wife used to make. However, the scattered sushi in front of me seems to always lack a certain familiar taste. Daikichi pondered for a long time, but couldn't find the answer, while Tama was eating with great enjoyment, looking completely carefree. However, when Daikichi fell asleep, Tama quietly slipped into the backyard, where the cat Tama admired was standing on the wall. Tama cautiously approached, just about to fulfill her wish, but unfortunately, a few calls of Mimi summoned the cat away. It turned out that the cat was a pet raised by Sachi. Unwilling to give up, Tama followed Sachi to the cafe. The previously renovated shop was now completed, and a group of people curiously peeked inside. Ueo noticed that Sachi was very curious, but Sachi, considering others' discussions about age, showed a hint of shyness. The owner, Michiko, came out and warmly welcomed everyone, but everyone declined, citing their age. Only Tama, the cat, trotted over to Michiko's feet. Ueo knew Sachi wanted to go, so he asked Michiko if there was ice cream soda in the cafe. That was Sachi's favorite drink. Seeing the youthful expression suddenly appear on Sachi's face, Ueo also revealed a subtle smile. Michiko prepared cat food for the guests' cats, served in small bowls shaped like flowers, and it seemed every guest received thoughtful care. However, Tomiko and Tome were still arguing, deliberately sitting far apart, but raising their voices so the other could hear. As the topic turned to the heavy matter of life and death, Sachi called out to Michiko, asking why she chose to come to this island. For many, this island is a kind of bondage, hence many leave while few remain. But Michiko did not find it dull. Instead, she viewed it as a brand new life experience. Dr. Kentaro, carrying a medical kit, appeared somewhat angry and questioned Tomiko in an annoyed tone about why she stood him up, as they had agreed for him to come for a consultation today, yet Tomiko silently hid in the cafe. Michiko greeted Kentaro with drinks, and Kentaro instantly felt the same heart-fluttering sensation as Tama did earlier. Kentaro stared blankly at Michiko, and that moment of distraction was noticed by others. Everyone liked Michiko. It seems she truly belonged to this island. Michiko was like a migratory fish. Perhaps she had swum far away, but ultimately found her home. The time spent gathering in the cafe was increasing for everyone. Sachi brought in peas she had grown herself, stirring up deep memories hidden within Daikichi. Daikichi's wife Yoshi was once best at cooking pea rice, and that fragrance is unforgettable. Daikichi felt nostalgic and searched everywhere for any recipes that might have been left behind. Tama stood on Daikichi's back, anxiously leaping directly to the top of the cabinet. Tama pushed down several colorful boxes, and before Daikichi could scold Tama for causing trouble, he saw the recipes stored inside. It turned out that Tama wanted to help, but was misunderstood by Daikichi. For a moment, the little cat felt wronged, its whiskers raised high as if silently expressing dissatisfaction. Turning to the first page, Yoshi recorded the cooking process with vivid illustrations. Daikichi followed the steps. He shelled the bright green peas into a bowl, washed the rice clean, soaked it for a moment, then added water, salt, and peas in order, bringing it to a boil before simmering on low heat for 30 minutes. The timing was just right. Lifting the lid, the room was filled with steam and the familiar fragrance. This taste instantly awakened Daikichi's long-buried memories, as if his wife had never left, still cooking a pot full of pea rice on a spring day, accompanied by a bowl of clam miso soup. Recalling the deliciousness of the past, Daikichi couldn't help but flip through the back of the recipe book. Unfortunately, after the fourth page, it was blank, and he didn't know why it hadn't been continued. In an instant, Daikichi felt a sense of emptiness in his heart. After learning about this, Michiko suggested that Daikichi continue writing this recipe book. Right now, there was a ready-made dish to record. Michiko took out the fresh fish sent by Ueo and used a chef's knife to cut the fish in half. The processed fish was translucent and emitted a warm, smooth sheen like mutton fat. The three of them stood behind the counter, unable to resist their appetites. Just as they were about to taste it, Kentaro rushed into the cafe, panting. Tomiko and Tome were arguing again, this time over a little cat. Kentaro learned that Tomiko had been staying indoors for a long time and was worried about her mental health, so he brought a lively little cat, hoping it could provide companionship and therapy. But Tomiko reacted strongly, firmly refusing Kentaro's goodwill and asking him not to disturb her life anymore. Kentaro had meant well, but Tomiko, being stubborn, insisted that she could take care of herself, and in a fit of anger, she left without noticing the steps, tripping and twisting her ankle. Fortunately, no bones were injured. She would just have some inconvenience in movement for the next few days. Kentaro also felt guilty. If he hadn't insisted so much, perhaps it wouldn't have led to Tomiko's emotional outburst. Tome, waiting outside the clinic, felt very frustrated. In the past, no matter how much the two argued, they could quickly reconcile. But this time Tome felt a clear difference. Tomiko seemed to be deliberately pushing him away. Tome was sad and couldn't understand why his friend rejected his concern. Only Tomiko knew that she was engaging in self-protection. Since her husband's death, Tomiko felt even more lonely. The pain of being forced to separate from the person she had spent half her life with was deeply etched in her heart, as if a part of her soul was missing. Tomiko was extremely afraid of experiencing such loss again, so she actively distanced herself from any relationships that might create deep connections. Daikichi completely understood this feeling. In short, when a person loses their emotional anchor, it becomes easy to become cold and distant, building high walls within. Therefore, even having a cat is good. There will be someone waiting for you to come home, someone who will give you a warm response. Just as this small town is never short of cats, it is also never short of lonely people. Of course, some people choose to draw closer to each other, like Sachi and Ueo. The night sea breeze carried moisture, but the moonlight was bright and beautiful. The two strolled under the watery moonlight, reminiscing about the past. Gradually, the distance between them closed, their two shadows nestled together, walking towards the distance. As the second anniversary of Yoshi's death approached, her son Tsuyoshi specially rushed back from Tokyo to pay his respects. Tsuyoshi, as usual, inquired about everything on the island, and after learning that there had not been much change, he once again hoped that his father would come to live in Tokyo with him. But Daikichi took out the cookbook, saying that life is not unchanging. He was learning to cook and hoped to complete his wife's unfinished recipes. To show his son, Daikichi specially made a tofu skin sushi. The fried tofu skin needed to be soaked overnight to fully absorb the broth. The rice needed to cool during the stirring process to achieve a distinct, glossy finish. The finished product was golden in color, overflowing with the taste of memories. When Tsuyoshi took a bite, he couldn't help but choke up. Tsuyoshi didn't dare to look up at his father, fearing tears would spill over, and just quietly said that it was his mother's flavor, a bit special with a toasted aroma, but that was the best. The father and son nodded in tacit understanding. On this special day, it was indeed not appropriate to talk too much about sad topics. Tama timely jumped onto the dining table, evoking memories of Yoshi's gentle side for the two. Tama was the cat Yoshi brought back. At that time, Tama had just been born and was carefully wrapped in Yoshi's arms all the way home. The couple cherished Tama like a treasure, gently wrapping her in a blanket and feeding her some sugar water. The kitten looked around in confusion, enjoying Yoshi's caress. Tama accompanied the two elderly people through the 4 seasons, witnessing Yoshi's gradual decline in health. Daikichi held the now round Tama and suddenly sighed deeply. Daikichi felt that it should have been him who left first. Yoshi loved Tama so much. She should have spent a few more years with her. Yoshi was so gentle and kind. She should have suffered less from illness. Unfortunately, the farewells at the twilight of life cannot be chosen, and even though Daikichi longs to swap places with his wife at this moment, it remains an unattainable wish. Tsuyoshi, worried about his father's loneliness, still wanted to take Daikichi to live with him in Tokyo. A big city can also accommodate cats and allow for living with Tama. But Daikichi could not leave. This place is where his roots are. Thus, Tsuyoshi could only reluctantly say goodbye. Tsuyoshi could not persuade his father and could only wait for him to gradually come to terms with it. At dusk, Daikichi took Tama for a walk by the sea. The gentle sea breeze brought a sense of tranquility, as if Yoshi was still by his side. This was precisely the reason Daikichi chose to stay. This place holds countless precious memories of Daikichi and his wife. Daikichi knew that even if his body left, his soul would forever belong to this island. As autumn approached, the postman Satoshi suggested holding an event that all the residents of the island could participate in. It had indeed been a long time since a collective gathering was held here. Everyone sat in the cafe brainstorming ideas. Ueo recalled that night walking with Sachi under the moonlight and suggested holding a dance. This idea was supported by Michiko, who even thought of decorating the gym a bit and hanging the silver mirror disco ball that Sachi had always longed for. This proposal was unanimously approved, and even the children helped decorate the venue. Taking the opportunity to distribute flyers, Tome knocked on Tomiko's door. Seeing the other party about to close the door, Tome pushed against it with force and trembled as he said that if Tomiko was no longer there, who would he argue with like this in the future? So Tome cared about Tomiko, fearing that she would shut herself off. Regardless, Tome would wait in the ballroom, waiting for his only dance partner. Everyone began to look forward to this dance. Daikichi also specifically studied snacks that would suit everyone's taste. Ueo deliberately changed into a white suit and stood beside Sachi, looking somewhat reserved. The two eagerly awaited the lights in the center of the venue to illuminate. As the music played, the shattered light spots slowly lit up the entire hall. Seeing Sachi's delighted expression, Ueo also wore a satisfied smile. This was a dance party filled with happiness, where everyone found their own meaning. Daikichi stood in front of the dessert stall, distributing suitable snacks to everyone. Tomiko pretended to be reserved as she entered the dance hall and began to dance exaggeratedly with Tome. Everyone found their dance partners. Even Tama finally succeeded in approaching the cat she admired. Two kittens squatted on the rooftop, watching Kentaro walk towards Michiko. With the beer in hand, Kentaro expressed his reason for coming here. He did not want the island's doctors to merely become signers of death certificates, as that was not the duty of a healer. Therefore, Kentaro tirelessly visited every resident, trying to save potentially lost lives by detecting subtle health changes early. Michiko took the beer from Kentaro's hand and downed the remaining drink in one go. This seemingly ambiguous indirect contact left Kentaro momentarily stunned, with the starry sky witnessing the heartbeat of the two at this moment. On the dance floor, Sachi gazed for a long time at the rotating light above, which was Sachi's star. Sachi had once longed to dance in the ballroom, but unfortunately, after marriage, she became busy with family chores, and by the time she finally came to her senses, the years had passed. If asked which day in life was the happiest, perhaps it was today. The dance music was lively and cheerful, yet the two had slightly reddened eyes. Ueo mustered the courage to invite Sachi to dance, and that night, their smiles were incredibly radiant. However, the bad news came like a bolt from the blue. Not long after the dance party ended, Sachi suddenly passed away. The person who had been so lively just a few days ago turned into a photo in front of the spirit tablet, leaving all the old friends sitting silently before the altar with bowed heads. Perhaps everyone had gradually become accustomed to such farewells, but they would still be deeply saddened by its suddenness. Ueo, dressed in black mourning clothes, gazed affectionately at the photo before him, unable to say a word, only able to emit some intermittent, mechanical syllables. Everyone began to discuss the placement of the cat that Sachi had left behind. Daikichi suggested that Ueo adopt it, but this undoubtedly meant facing the painful memories every day. Ueo would think of how gently Sachi once held that cat every day, and would relive the loneliness of losing Sachi anew. The cat may not understand the complexities of life and death in the human world, but it can keenly sense that feeling of sadness. In the end, Ueo did not adopt the cat, but chose to let it become a community cat cared for by everyone. Daikichi understands his friend's decision because he himself has experienced the pain of losing a loved one. Although he still watches over the cat left by Yoshi, the loneliness and solitude still invade Daikichi's heart from time to time. When it was time to feed Tama, Daikichi got up to prepare as usual, but suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. Daikichi couldn't hold on and fell to the ground. The phone, so close yet seemingly out of reach at that moment. In the instant he fell, Tama squatted nearby, confused. Daikichi saw a photo of Yoshi and suddenly remembered Yoshi's reminder. Tama cannot open the door by itself, so there must always be a crack left for Tama at home. Worried that Tama would not be able to leave the room after he fell, Daikichi, with the remaining willpower, struggled to move towards the door. Fortunately, Michiko came to visit and promptly took Daikichi to the hospital. Daikichi turned the crisis into safety, and Tsuyoshi rushed back from Tokyo to take care of him. Kentaro suggested that Daikichi go to a large hospital for a comprehensive checkup. While writing the referral form, Tsuyoshi's expression changed several times. Initially filled with extreme worry and fear, Tsuyoshi was afraid that his father would encounter an accident this time. Then there was some annoyance, angry that his father did not heed Tsuyoshi's advice to carry a mobile phone, and even angrier that his father did not agree earlier to go live in Tokyo with Tsuyoshi. Finally, there was a long sigh of relief. Thankfully, this time there was no major issue. But Tsuyoshi feared there would be a next time, so he firmly insisted on taking his father back to Tokyo. Tsuyoshi asked Daikichi to give a clear answer the next time he returned. Daikichi lay on the hospital bed, silent, still unable to let go of everything related to this small island. Just like Tama at home, who could not understand why humans suddenly disappeared. Tama couldn't figure out why its family did not come back today. Tama searched every corner of the room carefully, but did not find that familiar figure. Could it have been abandoned? Tama looked at the photo on the table, not knowing how long it had waited. Finally, hearing the familiar footsteps at the door. Daikichi was back, but he looked so weak, no longer immediately holding Tama in his arms as usual. Tama stayed by Daikichi's bedside, watching him fall into a deep sleep. However, when Daikichi woke up, Tama was nowhere to be found. Daikichi weakly searched around, going to all possible places, but he did not see that familiar little cat. Even the others at the cafe said that if an old cat senses its life is coming to an end, it sometimes quietly hides in a deserted place. This made everyone feel heavy-hearted, but Daikichi was unwilling to believe it. However, even Sachi's cat would return to the old house every day to wait. So, where could Tama, who had lived in this home for more than 6 years, have gone? Daikichi gently leaned his head against Mimi's, as if trying to convey his longing so that Tama would know there were still people at home who cared for it. Daikichi returned home, exhausted both physically and mentally, but was taken aback by a gift at the entrance, a shiny silver fish. This must have been brought back by Tama. Daikichi hurriedly searched around, and indeed heard a faint meow under the bedding. It turned out that Tama had not run away. Tama had simply gone out fishing because it saw Daikichi so weak, wanting to bring back nutrition for him. The little cat impatiently swatted its tail, as if urging Daikichi to enjoy the catch quickly. Daikichi tightly held onto the cat, unwilling to let go. After all, this was the most precious connection and support between Daikichi and Yoshi. With Tama's company, Daikichi quickly recovered. In the end, Daikichi did not follow his son's advice and chose to stay on this island, guarding Tama, guarding the cats here, and preserving that eternal memory in his heart. Now, Daikichi can cook more and more dishes skillfully. The life of one person and one cat seems monotonous and repetitive. Tomiko and Tome still bicker, Iwao still goes out to fish, and Satoshi still fails to win Tama's favor. But if you observe closely, you will find that every day's sunset actually has subtle differences.